guys, I really want you to hear every word of this story. On a quiet hill just outside a bustling Brazilian city, something strange caught the attention of a local teenager. At first, it seemed like nothing, just an odd sight among the tall grass. But the closer that he got, the more unusual that it became. Two men, side by side, dressed in suits and raincoats, and had something very bizarre covering their faces. No one knew how they ended up there or why they were in that place to begin with, and what investigators would uncover next would ignite one of the strangest mysteries in modern history. Okay, it was August 20th, and I'm gonna take you back to 1966, a relatively quiet afternoon in Niterói, Brazil. But for a local teenager named George, that day would forever be burned into his memory. You see, he was flying a kite on Morro do Ventum, a hillside overlooking the city, and he made a gruesome discovery. Two bodies lying motionless in the tall grass. Startled at this point clearly, he sprinted to the nearest authorities, and what the investigators found when they arrived at the scene would soon ignite a mystery so bizarre that it remains unsolved to this day. Lying side by side, partially covered by the brush, were the lifeless bodies of two men, and they were dressed neatly in these matching suits covered by raincoats. But what caught the investigators' attention was the bizarre accessory, you could say, that each man wore over his eyes. Lead masks. The kind that you might wear to shield from radiation, covering their faces like grotesque visors. Plus, get this, there were no signs of trauma, no blood, no external injuries. It was as if the men had simply just ceased to live. Yet at that moment, something felt off. Deeply, deeply off. And so the bodies were then identified as Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana, two electronic technicians from a nearby town called Campos dos Caetacases. I hope I said that right. And they had been missing for several days. But what had brought them to this remote hillside? Well, as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a bizarre series of events leading up to the men's deaths. Because days earlier, Manuel and Miguel had told their families that they were heading out for a business trip just to buy, work supplies. However, they weren't traveling with any tools or equipment. Instead, they had a large sum of money on them with a bunch of cryptic notes. Witnesses reported that the two men were last seen boarding a bus to Niterói, and they stopped at a bar along the way and purchased just some water. According to the bartender, it was the last time that they were seen alive. But what truly, and I mean truly, baffled the investigators were the items that were found on the bodies. In one man's pocket, they discovered a notebook containing what appeared to be nonsensical instructions written in Portuguese. 16:30 the time, be at the agreed place. And then 18:30, swallow capsules, after effect, protect metals, await signal mask. That's what it said. So it seemed that the lead masks were there to protect the men from something. But what? And why the strange instructions about swallowing capsules? And as authorities now started to piece together the evidence, rumors began to swirl in the community. Some suggested that Manuel and Miguel had been involved in an elaborate spiritual ritual. Others believed that they had been experimenting with psychic or supernatural forces, possibly in an attempt to contact extraterrestrials. Because you see, in 1960s Brazil, it was a time of spiritual exploration. Interest in paranormal, UFO, psychic phenomena was at an all-time high. Both men had reportedly become fascinated with scientific spiritualism, a belief system that blends science with the metaphysical, and they were said to have dabbled in trying to communicate with otherworldly beings, using their technical knowledge to enhance their spiritual experiences. Could this be what led them to their fateful day on the hillside? Well, as authorities dug even deeper, they learned that the two men had been part of a local group of spiritualists, who were known to experiment with rituals to communicate with other dimensions. Yeah, you heard me right. And there were rumors that these rituals involved intense light phenomena, which might explain why they needed lead masks. Perhaps Manuel and Miguel were trying to shield their eyes from a powerful light, something too bright or too dangerous for the human eye to see. Then there were the capsules. According to the notes, the men were supposed to take them before the ritual. Had they ingested something that led to their deaths? Well, a toxicology report was ordered. But by the time the bodies were discovered, they were too decomposed to offer any conclusive results. Doesn't that just seem a little too convenient? I mean, can't toxicology be done on people that even years ago? Maybe I got this wrong. I don't know. But they determined that there was no poison detected, no drugs, no physical cause of death that could be determined. So the capsules remained a mystery. And that gets me to thinking, how do you know there's no drugs or anything detected, but you don't know what the capsules are? Anyway, as the investigation progressed, more questions emerged than answers. For one, the fact that the men carried a substantial amount of cash on them, yet they had not been robbed. But the lack of a clear cause of death left authorities and the world at this point baffled. The official police report eventually listed the cause of death as unknown. Then the case was closed. No arrests were made, no further investigations were launched, and the mystery of the lead masks seemed destined just to fade into obscurity. Yet even today, over 50 years later, the case continues to haunt the minds of conspiracy theorists, UFO enthusiasts, and armchair detectives alike. Over the years, though, several theories have been proposed to explain the bizarre deaths of Manuel and Miguel. Some believe they were part of a failed scientific experiment, perhaps trying to harness some kind of cosmic energy. Others think that they might have got caught up in a UFO cult, where they were attempting to make contact with extraterrestrial beings and died as a result of a botched ritual. There's also the possibility that they were victims of a more earthly crime, a murder disguised as something supernatural to throw off investigators. But why the lead mask then? Why the cryptic notes? Why the capsules? Could they have literally been maybe killed by something not from this planet? Because the most chilling theory involves the idea that Manuel and Miguel were manipulated by someone with knowledge of their spiritual beliefs. Someone who convinced them that they needed to take part in this deadly ritual, whether it was a cult leader or a con artist. It's possible that the men were led to their deaths through deception and manipulation. So the truth is, we may never know what really happened on that hillside in Niterói. The lead mask case remains one of the most perplexing and unsolved mysteries in Brazil's history, maybe the world's. What we do know, though, is that two men went to that hill expecting something monumental to happen, whether it was a scientific breakthrough, a spiritual awakening, or something otherworldly. They believed that they were on the verge of something truly incredible, and instead, they were met with their death, swift, unexplained, and silent. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the case is that we still have no answers, only theories. Were they reaching out to extraterrestrials, or were they victims of a failed experiment? Or was something far more sinister at play? Whatever the truth may be, the lead masks case continues to captivate and chill those who delve into its strange and unsettling details. And like so many great mysteries, it leaves us with far more questions than answers. But the lead mask case is one of those rare, chilling stories where the facts are literally stranger than fiction. And despite countless theories and investigations by now, the bizarre nature of Manuel and Miguel's deaths leaves everyone who hears their tale deeply unsettled and ultimately unsatisfied, which I'm sorry for. But what happened to them? We'll likely never know for sure, but that actually might be the scariest part. Let me know who you think killed them if it was anybody at all, in the comments right now below. Make sure to like this video, and if you want to watch another banger, and this one is actually really crazy, warning, it's crazy, make sure to click up here. I'm serious, plus I got other stories around. I love you guys. That's all I got for you today. Cheers.